Oi, it's your old friend Lou Brutus here. Time for another segment. This one is with an old friend of mine, goes back several bands in many years, Mark Tremonti. He's got an excellent new Tremonti record out. We'll chat about that and all things in his musical life. But I want you to also head on over to harddriveradio.com. There you can register to win an autographed Tremonti guitar. Frankly, I try to keep it for myself, but you get a chance now. Win it before I grab it. And remember, if you enjoy what you're seeing here, to hit like and subscribe. And with that said, here's my boy, Mark Tremonti. Hey, I'm Lou Brutus, and I get to speak to many, many talented, interesting people, but few have as much going for them as the gentleman who joins me now, our old friend, Mark Tremonti. Mark, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Dude, is that your house? Is that your place down in Orlando?
This is my studio. Yeah, this is 5 years in the making to put this together.
Is it like an old church or a factory, or what is that?
No, it's when I built it originally back in 2002, it was real gothic, and we tried to modernize it. It used to be all dark and almost like Count Dracula's place, but now it's all white and bright and happy. So yeah.
And was it a shell? And then what did you do to renovate it? I'm imagining it's filled with just treasures of equipment and memorabilia.
We built this place from the ground up. We got lucky enough to buy this neighborhood I'm in. We were the very first family to buy, so we got lucky, and we had to move out for 5 years, like I said, just to gut it and redo it because there were some build things that we had to fix up, and in the meantime, we did some modernizing to it, painted it all white, and made it a little more modern.
Forgive me if I missed, but was there ever a making of or how-to video of, hey, I'm Mark Tremonti, and here's how I make my bitchin' ass rock and roll house?
No, maybe one day, maybe Rock and Roll Cribs comes back.
That was one of the few reality shows that I actually enjoyed. I was just interested in all that stuff. And I love seeing the kind of stuff that entertainers keep in their homes. Like, what do you have out? Do you have gold records? Do you have old guitars? Like what do you have that people can see?
I have, since we got this place done, I'm building a little glass display case upstairs for all the awards and stuff, but it just hasn't been done yet. So right now my closet's full of all my all that kind of stuff. So pretty much now you walk in, you wouldn't really know the difference between this and any other house, really. My studio is where I hide all my stuff. I mean, behind me I'm just surrounded by amplifiers, so it's I've got too many amplifiers at this point.
Well, I always remember you being kind of a gearhead about that stuff, and you've got a pretty decent collection of vintage stuff, if I remember correctly.
I had a lot of vintage. I got a bunch of vintage amplifiers. I've got one old, war era Martin acoustic, but Miles is the guy that's starting to grab up all the old Tellys and Strats from the 50s. He's got that bug. I think all of us get it at some point.
Are there any guitar players you remember seeing live that are just total whack jobs about that stuff? The name that comes to mind that because I've seen him so often and have known him so long is Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick. Every guitar he plays is some billion-dollar museum piece.
Yeah. Well, he was lucky. He became a guitar fanatic collector when guitars weren't crazy expensive like they are now. The first guy that comes to mind to me is Joe Bonamassa. His collection is insane. I remember going to sound check when they came through town, and he's like, "Yeah, check out my rig. I'm playing through his high-powered Tweed Twins, which are about 25, 30 grand a piece. I'm playing through his Les Pauls, which are about probably now $500,000 a piece. His I forget what year it is, 78 Flying V's that, just crazy, the best of the best. He'll be like, he does a tour. I think there's a video on YouTube where he's like, here's the first blue Stratocaster. And he owns it. Absolutely crazy collection.
Well, the thing is, though, that, you can have the greatest gear in the world, but if you're not much of a guitarist, you're not going to sound very good. And Bonamassa is just one of those inhuman players.
He's insane. He's the kind of guy that even if I spent every day for the rest of my life practicing, I won't get up to some of the things he's doing on the guitar. He's definitely a tremendous player.
Why do some people get that sort of, is it a gift from God? Do the music gods touch you before you're born, and you can get that good?
I think I have a theory. I think when a player starts at a really, really young age, I'm talking 4 years old, 5 years old, those players become the best in the world. You have Joe Bonamassa, whose dad, I believe, was a guitar dealer or so. I'm not sure what he did, but he collected, and so Joe had instruments around him when he was a kid, from what I read. And I think Guthrie Govan, one of the best players out in the world right now, he's the same way. Started as a young kid. Um, Even in drummer, every kind of instrumentalist, when they start when they're really really young, they've got a huge leg up on everybody else because I guess the human brain when you're that young just absorbs things so much quicker that they've got this now unfair advantage over the rest of the world because they have these very vital years in their playing. I started when I was 11 years old, but I didn't really start focusing on the guitar as a technical instrument for years after that. So um, I liked the guitar for songwriting initially, but these guys just were shredding when they were kids.
Were you one of those kids that, because I knew some growing up who essentially locked themselves in their rooms through middle school and high school and just played guitar? Were you that psychotic about it, or?
Yeah, I tried to carve out every second I could to play the guitar because my parents were they made me do my homework, made me eat my dinner, made me I had soccer practice, I had all these things. So if I could carve out a few hours a day, that would be great. And it wasn't I don't think anybody's going to get good unless they go through periods like that where they're willing to do whatever they can to make time for their instrument or whatever it is that they want to accomplish. Because it's when my people ask me, do your kids play? Did you ask, did you give them the opportunity? And I did. I gave them guitars. I showed them. I taught them how to play Iron Man, and their eyes lit up. And I put a real nice guitar in their bedrooms and an amplifier next to their bed. And I said, I'm never going to ask you to practice, but here's your guitar and here's your amplifier. If you ever have any questions, you can ask me. They maybe picked up the guitar two more times after that, and they just didn't. It wasn't their thing. You got to want it. If you're gonna get good at something, you've got to get your parents angry because you're spending too much time on the guitar.
Did your parents ever get to that point with you where they thought, A, you were either spending too much time on guitar, or B, when it looked like you wanted to become a musician, they're like, hey, son, that's maybe not such a great career path?
Well, my when I was a kid, I had a half stack, a gigantic, 412 cabinet, and I had this little tiny bedroom. So it was hard for me to practice without them knowing because it was so their room was right next to mine. So they would tell me, they'd constantly just get your homework done, stop, playing the guitar and do your homework. But as far as the career path went, they completely let me do my thing. Well, you know, all fairness, I put myself through. My parents put me through my first year in college, and then I put myself through the rest. So it was up to me. I was the one working at the car wash and and in the kitchen, washing dishes and cooking to put myself through school. So when it came down to, okay, I've got a record contract or I could take my finals this semester, I didn't take my finals that semester, and I'm happy I made that decision.
Did you ever get go back and wrap that stuff up?
No, but I went to this charity event with my wife and some friends of ours, and one of my friends ends up being on the board at Florida State where I last went to school, and I told him that I never got my degree because of this. I told him the story, and he says, you know what, with all your experiences and all the businesses that you've had to start and this and that, I could get you an honorary degree if you come and do a speech. So I'll probably just go do a speech at Florida State and get my honor, my degree. So it's so I don't have to go back to studying.
Can you get me one of those? I've got like a year of community college under my belt, and I went to go work in I went to go work at WMMR in Philly. I'm like, I can always go back to Brookdale,
Yeah, you just find somebody on the board of the college, and they'll get you that degree.
Excellent stuff. Now, let's kind of like continue the evolution as we work towards what you're doing this moment. But why is it some of the kids who grow up and are very dedicated to an instrument can go on to a professional career and become a good band member, whilst others just sort of continue to play, maybe very well, but continue to play only in their room? What makes that sort of hyperspace jump?
I think the easy answer to that is being a songwriter. You have a lot of musicians that are great musicians but can't write a song, and they're constantly chasing other people down to get a band together because they have to rely on somebody else's song. And every time, and when I go on tour, I do clinics, guitar clinics, and and we market them as guitar clinics slash songwriting clinics. So I teach people how I write
Mm.
songs, and I tell these people, I don't care if you're the best guitar player in the world, you better learn how to write a song because I guarantee you there's a guy in town here who can play better than all of us, but there's a kid at the end of his street that he's begging to be in his band because he plays four chords and writes great songs and can sing. So I would say, I would really stress songwriting. You know, if you're a bad singer, learn how to sing, just learn how to write a song. And it's not some magical thing that you can't do and only certain people can do. You just have to have one lucky moment that gives you that moment that says, you know, I can do this. And there's just certain things you can do, and it would take longer than we can talk about in this interview to do it. But it's definitely a possibility for everybody that owns an instrument. And I think that's such an important thing.
Step one, get a rhyming dictionary, and then you're
There
off
you
to the
go.
races, right?
Absolutely. There's a program I use called Master Writer. And I swear Master Writer needs to give me a free membership because I've sold probably so many memberships to it at these clinics. But it's got the rhyming dictionary, it's got the thesaurus, it's got the thing where if you have, say you got a line that has 8 syllables in it and it ends in the E vowel, you can get in there, say the word what you want it to rhyme with, and say how many syllables, and say it has to be the last word or the first word, and it'll spit out 1,000 sentences. It might be, it might say Shakespeare went to the mall to grab a beer, and you won't be able to use that. But if you send out 1,000 sentences, you see just 2 or 3 words that go together that you like, you can build something from it. So it's good to, instead of sitting on your hands going, what do I do? You can have somebody push you along. And Master Writer is a great lyric program.
So something else then down the same path is, what's the difference between, and I've asked this of many people before, but I hope for an especially good answer from you because you're a band leader on your own. You've also been a part of some just great combinations with Creed and Alter Bridge. What's the difference between a great musician and a great band member?
Um, I'd rather have somebody that I can deal with day in and day out on a bus and in a dressing room and making business decisions. I'd rather have somebody be a B plus instead of an A plus if they're a nice person, easy to get along with. That's a big thing. Personalities go a long way in a band, and um, I don't like I said again. I don't care if you're the best player in the world and you teach. You come onto a bus and you sour everybody's mood. You're on the tour. You're on tour a lot of 3/4 of the year sometimes, and that's just not going to fly. That's why you see a lot of great musicians popping in and out of tons of different bands and not be able to hold a gig because that's a big part of it. Uh, it's almost like camp. You gotta be with these people over and over and over. And if you could choose not to be with a certain person at that camp and you kick them out, that person's going to get kicked out. And when it comes to a band, so um, I got lucky enough to to be able to bounce back after the Creed thing and realize that when we get this band Alter Bridge together, we better have everybody in this band be level headed. And we've now been a band for I don't know 17 years maybe. I'm not sure how many years
Yeah, I know
we've
it's
been in.
coming up on 20. Yeah.
So we never fight in Alter Bridge. We're all the right personalities for one another. Um, Same with my lineup right now in Tremonti. We're all just good buds, and it goes a long way. Everybody's gotta be friendly to the next guy and just be friends. Not try, just be cool, be nice, and
Yeah.
yeah, it turns into a brotherhood.
What and I'm not looking for a name here. I don't want a name here. But can you give me an example of something like really kind of crazy somebody might do, like clipping their toenails in the front lounge of the bus? Like, tell me something that could drive you nuts.
Oh man, the times when, say, like in Tremonti, when I can't, party like everybody else when I'm in Tremonti. When I'm in Alter Bridge, I can, but in Tremonti, I'm singing. I've got to get my proper amount of sleep. I got to be hydrated. I gotta stay focused. So when I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I hear the stereo blaring in the lounge, and I go into the lounge, and you can't even see because it's smoke from wall to wall, floor to ceiling. I just about, I, when people drink on tour and they get rowdy, and they this new thing where they get their vapes out, and their vapes, the more smoke they can blow out, the cooler they think they are. So the whole damn bus is full of smoke, vape smoke. And they try to say to me, "Oh, it's just vape," but I can't see a foot in front of my head. That stuff pisses me off, and I let them know it. Like I'll wake up, and then I'll go back to bed, and then a few hours later, I still hear it going on, and I woke up, and that cloud is still there. Somebody's getting in trouble, because it's
Yeah,
when
that's no fun. It's hard
yeah.
enough to get sleep on the road, I mean, even I know that.
And I understand these are all my friends. They're gonna party, and I can't be. I'm not like their father figure saying, "You kids stop doing this." It's just, hey, you want to cancel the show because your singer didn't get any sleep, and you guys smoked all night long and vaped all night long and drank all night long and didn't get me. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's happened a few times. Um, that's when you can see old singer Mark get a little irritated.
Yeah. So tell me about putting together Marching in Time, and if you could specifically talk about the other cats who took part in this with you.
Yeah, well, Marching in Time was from the minute Walk the Sky was done. I always get this anxious, oh, I got to get another record written immediately. So I start writing fast and furious as soon as that record's done. So that record, most of it was done in the last 2 years, and then there's a handful of ideas that have been around for as much as 20 years that I popped into this record. But um, this record was the first time in this band's history that we had as much time as we did to put it together. Usually it's a race to the finish, bouncing between Alter Bridge Records and Tremonti Records trying to make deadlines. But this time I could take every idea I had and tear them apart and put them back together as many times as I wanted to in demo phase, where usually Eric will come down. Um, Eric is kind of he's my right hand guy in this band. He's the one that I play my ideas for. He's the one that I look for that look in his eye that tells me he agrees that the idea is good.
Mm.
And then we'll get to demo phase. Usually we'll do this for like two or 3 weeks. This time we did it for 3 months. So he just stayed at my house. We broke out the Pro Tools rig. Eric is a great drum programmer. Um, he really dives way deep into the drums, and he also plays bass on the demos. And then we hand it over to the other guys so they can learn their parts and put their own spin on what they what they do. But really, most of it's me and Eric getting together. After I've done a couple years of songwriting, getting with him, picking the best ideas, putting final arrangements on them, turning those demos in. And usually I turn those demos in to Elvis, our producer, and sometimes we'll listen to it, and there'll be a couple songs where it's like, you know what, I like this song, but the bridge, I don't think we should go down the rabbit hole. We should keep it energetic or this and that. With this record, these songs were so polished and done, lyrics, solos, everything was already done. So as soon as he heard it, he loved it all, and he's like, let's do it. But we got to cut 4 songs. What are we going to cut? So we cut 4 or 5 songs this time, and all the songs to me were equally, I liked them an equal amount. But when it comes to the dynamics of the record, we had to look at, all right, this song is about 5 minutes beats per minute faster than this song. It's pretty close. Let's cut one of these 2 songs. So we're not cutting quality. We're cutting mood and dynamic. From if 2 songs carry the same dynamic, one's got to go.
Yeah, and you again, to get sort of a balance and different peaks and valleys throughout, which
Yeah.
leads me to sequencing the record. It's always something I'm interested in hearing from an artist when they're coming off, they're very fresh on a new record. Tell me about putting the songs together in order for the release.
Yeah, well, the most important song for me was the title track because it was a 7.5 minute song. To me, I didn't want to put it third or fourth because what if I don't have the listener's attention by now and he hears this long song and gets lost, turns the record off? If I put it last because I know if I have your attention through this whole darn record and you're gonna hear a 7.5 minute song, you're gonna listen to it. If you've already listened to the whole record, you're gonna listen to it. I wanted that song to be heard from front to back, so that's why I put it last. The first song, "A World Away," has probably the most attention-grabbing 30 seconds to begin that song, and I think that's what every album needs. When it starts out, you want people to push play, and within 10 seconds, like, oh, what's this? So "A World Away," when we first put it together, I didn't have a guitar solo for it. It was a song in an alternate tuning, and I just didn't do it. And then once I started recording the tunes, I told Elvis, I'm like, man, this is looking like an opening track. I'm going to have to write a guitar solo for this, even though we had already done the arrangement and done the drums and done the bass. And so we just copy and pasted that last chorus progression, and I just soloed over that. So the only reason you can't have an opening track on a record, because without a solo, people might not appreciate that. When I released "A Dying Machine" first on the last record, it was one of my favorite songs I've ever written, and I put a solo in there, but it was a clean finger style kind of solo. But people were saying, "Where's the guitar solo?" And I learned my lesson, so I'm not going to put a first song first on a record without a solo, or a first release without a solo, because I just don't want to, have people always expect a solo and never get it.
Do you, and I don't know if you want to give it away, is that the opening song for your set on the tour coming up with Seven Dust and Daughtry?
It was a few times we did it as the opening song, and it worked well. But I'm thinking about making the opening song the single now. I feel like whenever we play shows, especially like European shows with all the metal bands on there, we like to come out swinging with the speed metal stuff. But I feel like when people don't know the band and we're playing this, Travis the lineup isn't super metal, right? So I want to start the show out with a mid-tempo rock song and then build it up from there. So we don't, so we settle in nice and fine with a more familiar song.
Excellent. And give me a little background on "If Not For You." What made it a standout from all these great songs?
It was just when I went back and listened to all my ideas, that one always got, I have this star rating for my ideas. So when I go back to work on ideas, I can see which ones I should work on first. It was always my 5-star idea in this cycle. It just was different to me, and had a certain magic that a songwriter has whenever you feel something that really hits you. And when we played these songs for Elvis, a producer, that was immediately his favorite song of all the songs. And when we were picking singles for this album, "A World Away," the opening track on the record, was going to be the single. We were going to have to do radio edits and all this stuff. And then one day I got on the phone with my manager, and we were kind of both like, it needs to be "If Not For You." It just seems right. That song it's earned its place as first single. So we chose it, and people really loved it right out of the gate. And this has been probably our best received record right out of the gate that we've had, and we couldn't be happier about that, because that's, people ask, what are you trying to achieve with this record? What direction are you trying to do? The only thing I ever try to do is try to do something that is going to be a step up from the previous album, and something that the fans accept.
You've mentioned Elvis's name a few times, and I know you and I have chatted about him before, but what is it about this guy that brings out the best in you, and why do you suppose it is so many other artists love to work with this cat?
Well, when we first started working with Elvis, we did this blind taste test where Scott Phillips went, and we took our 5 producers that we wanted to use after we did our first record with Alter Bridge, and we listened to a song from each of those producers 5 times, and we voted on which ones sounded the best. Every single time Elvis won. So his production his production sounded better than all these other producers to us unanimously every single time. So when I got with Elvis, when we first worked with Elvis, I don't like a producer to come in and try to sway your writing. I've never wanted somebody to say, you should do this chord. No, these songs have to be our songs. We have to believe that these are our songs. I don't want to be led by some producer saying, write this kind of way. But Elvis was the first time I trusted somebody who'd come in and say, that bridge, maybe we could do better with that part. Or, his transition ideas have always been really great. And I think we've all learned a lot from, now when I write, part of my brain is just kind of taken in what his approach is on a lot of transitions and arrangement ideas. And, because he just does this nonstop, band after band, day after day. He does not stop. He works from probably noon until 2 in the morning every single day and does not take a break. So he's constantly working this machine in his head, and you can learn a lot from a guy like that. And he, like you said, he gets the best out of you. He really does. He gets the best performances out of you. It takes a while to get comfortable with somebody that's recording your music, as a lead guitar player or a singer. When you're laying down your first solo for a new producer, it's a stressful thing. And when you're laying down vocals, it's also a nerve-wracking thing. So I have such a comfort level with him now that I don't think twice about it. I just go in there knowing that he's going to get the best out of me. And I could say the same word 100 times, and I know that he'll pick the best time I sang it. It's great with vocals.
Yeah, and you hit on something very interesting with him, the fact that he's not trying to push you towards sounding a particular way. He's just trying to get the best you. Another producer I would compare him to very favorably in that respect is the great Nick Raskolinitz. Whereas there are some producers in rock and certainly a lot in the pop world, I think they sort of have a package, and they kind of, here's what we're going to make a hit record sound like, and we're going to take your guitar apart, make it sound like that. That doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot of fun. No,
that's definitely, there's definitely producers like that, and there's been very successful ones that do that. Yeah. But as an artist, as a songwriter, I want somebody to take what I've written and polish it and make it the best it can be. I don't want somebody to rewrite it. These are my babies. These are little mind babies that you create here, and you don't want you just want somebody to get the best performances out of you.
If a genie in a lamp appeared right now and would grant you one wish, that wish being you could create a song with any producer, songwriter, other musician, who would the person or persons be? Who would you love to work with, even maybe if they're not around anymore? It's a genie. He can make that shit happen.
Anybody ever, huh? Man. I would just stick with the band that made me start falling in love with music was Metallica. That was it. Metallica, Master of Puppets was the record that flipped the switch for me, made me a music fanatic. So I'd say Metallica.
Why is it that the Master of Puppets album is the Master of Puppets album in your mind? What is it that makes it this? And I think it's my favorite Metallica record too. Why is it, from a musician standpoint, what makes it so damn good?
I think there's a lot of, it's aggressive, but it's also a beautiful record too. I remember that's the kind of thing where my parents were always kind of keeping an ear out to what I was listening to, because they didn't want to hear any satanic music or this or that, So I'd always turn down the Slayer when the Satan words came up. I listened to some heavy stuff, and I remember our housekeeper would come over and tell my parents that their son was listening to devil music and this and that, because I had all my Megadeth and Slayer stuff up, but I wasn't into that. I was just into the music. Right? But anyways, the things I would do to make my parents know that I was listening to quality music is I would take Battery and I would play the beginning of it. I'd say, look how nice this guitar line is. And my dad would be like, that is beautiful, Mark. That is beautiful. And then right before it kicks in, I'd turn it down.
Well, I'm going to practice my guitar now. I love you guys. See you in a bit.
Yeah. So that being said, there are some beautiful moments in Master of Puppets. There's so much, there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of the orchestration, the way they put that stuff together was just amazing. Look at Orion, one of my favorite songs of all time. My favorite song off of my favorite record, Orion. And I got to see them play that live. I was lucky enough to be playing a show with Metallica where I got to stand side stage and watch them play Master of Puppets from start to finish, which was just musical heaven on earth for me.
Now, when you're that close, when you have that vantage point, and certainly being who you are and doing what you do, you have a great crow's nest to watch things from. but in particular a Metallica show like that, because you're such a fan. Besides watching the band on stage, what are you watching with the crew or the techs? What are you trying to learn about how they operate and the things that make them so great?
The stage presence, the show, the things that they've learned from playing so many thousands of times. Just the maneuvers, the speaking, that where to take breaks, how to excite the crowd, how do you put your set list together. Metallica's, any band in the world could open up for Metallica. All they have to do is play Enter Sandman, and all of a sudden, oh shit, it's Metallica. So their set list doesn't matter as much because everything's a hit. But yeah, I mean, I got to watch a bunch of Metallica shows from on stage. One of my favorite moments ever was we did a show. It might have been Download or whatnot, and we were playing Blackbird, and my guitar tech came over and handed me the guitar for it, and said, "Don't look now, but James Hetfield's up there watching your show."
Go.
I'm like, "Oh man!" So we played the whole show, and he stayed for the whole time. And I ran into my buddy Tom, who worked for security for me. He's like, "Hey man, James watched your whole show, and he might watch a couple minutes of a band and take off, but he rarely stays out that long." And to me, that was one of the coolest things ever. And then that night, I went to go watch Metallica, and Tom introduced me to their other head of security. He takes me over to all the other security guys on stage. He goes, "This is Mark. He's family. Let him do whatever he wants." And I'm like, "This is amazing." So I stand up on stage, and I remember Kirk Hammett comes side stage, and he sees me, and he's like, "Hey man, what rig are you using today?" And I'm like, "What rig are you using today?" And he's like, I'm using this, and I'm using that, I'm using a Kemper for this, and blah blah blah." And he's playing Fade to Black, and I know the solo's coming up about 4 seconds, and he's like, "Oh no!" Throws his in-ears in and runs out to do the solo. And then later in the set, they had 2 groups of fans on front, right, and left side of the stage, and they would interact with them through the show. And James was interacting with them on the left, and I think they were playing "For Whom the Bell Tolls." And then he's looking at him, being all like, Mr. Rock, and then he sees me to the side. He's like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" Like, what? How did that just happen? Did that just happen? So, yeah, I'm still like a little kid when it comes to these bands that made you do what you do, and then you get to play shows with them. It's still, it doesn't seem real at this, still at those moments.
You're probably far too cool for it. I do it. Do you like look down while you're standing up on the deck? Hey, there's a guitar pick. I'll stick that in my pocket and bring it home, throw it in a jar. You do any of that?
I'm not a guitar picker. I like pictures, pictures with people, or I'm not much of a autograph person either, unless it's something, I've got a Stevie Ray Vaughan autograph that's definitely precious to me. But yeah, just getting pictures with folks to me is more of a thing. You can put it up at your house and remember where what you did.
You got to tell me about the Stevie Ray Vaughan autograph. Did you get it yourself? Did you see him?
No, so my guitar player Eric in my solo band, his manager, that when I met him, he had this manager back in the day that used to be a photographer for Stevie Ray Vaughan. So he knew Stevie Ray Vaughan very well. And so for my birthday one year, they gave me a Soul to Soul record with Stevie's autograph on it.
That's something else. I saw him twice. And the first time was a really small, but a very nice hall on the campus of the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And I was ready to not like him because people were raving about him. I thought, well, this has just got to be bullshit.
Yeah.
And he hit the stage, and he's got double trouble with him. He's got a bassist and a drummer. And I thought, and I'm listening, and I'm pretty close. The place was small, and I'm listening, and I'm like, oh, this is bullshit. There's 2 guitar players. There's another guitar guy off stage. And then I start to look at his hands closely, and he's playing a rhythm and a lead at the same time. Like he could split what his hands were, like his hands could play 2 parts at the same time. And I just thought, well, that's not even human. So I shut my mouth after that and was very impressed. And he was fantastic.
Could be my favorite of all time. If you had to say, I got a gun to your head, tell me your favorite guitar players ever lived, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Well, I wish you had gotten to see him, because boy, oh boy, he was really good, and he made it look easy. He must have had a strength in his fingers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He played big strings on his guitars, and he would bend the hell out of them. And I think he used like 13 gauge strings, big, heavy ass strings to bend, and he just manhandled the guitar. He had big, fat fingers, but he was just. But that aside, he was just an emotional. He's the kind of guitar player that's going to get you choked up when you watch him.
Something else. Well, listen, I want to sort of jump ahead further into the year and talk about the Christmas holidays. What are the holidays like for you and the fam there? I picture the studio behind you, festooned in holiday garb. Is there
Yeah.
stuff up there in the studio?
Not in my studio yet. It's the we have a friend of ours that usually gets our house all done up. He actually was our designer for our house, and he's one of my wife's best friends. And he'll come over and he'll do our big Christmas tree, and the kids will do another Christmas tree in another room. But usually by the time I get off tour early December, he'll have the house already with the kids and my wife all done up. So. Um, Christmas is awesome, especially this year. This will be our first Christmas with our baby girl, so it's gonna be a big one.
And how do you deal with the holidays? Sometimes I know you've toured up to just a few days before Christmas. How do you do the shopping and all that? Or is it call the wife and like, I don't know what they want, figure it out?
No, I actually secretly ran off a few days this week to do some shopping because the day I get home from tour, which is December 14th, is my anniversary. So I have to have something. So I already got her anniversary on the way, her present, and then I actually text all of her friends, and I say, you guys got to give me ideas because she's, you know, I can't just go to the mall and grab a shirt, and it's got to be special. So I rely on her friends to tell me.
Excellent. And is there any particular Christmas music you like? First, I would ask, is there anything in the rock world that you and I deal with professionally that you like? And then maybe as a B part of the question, if there's any sort of holiday music you like, it could be, I listen to a lot of medieval Christmas music,
Ah,
for real around the holiday season. I love that stuff. What do you
ah.
like? What do you like?
I'm a massive Frank Sinatra fan. I even in these past like 3 years or so, I got even to be more of a Sinatra fan, and I've been singing Sinatra like crazy. Uh, I think I saw one video of him doing "The Song Is You" back in 1944, and a lot of people when they hear Sinatra, they think of older Sinatra. They think of New York
Mm.
stuff. They think of My Way and That's Life, but they don't realize why he became the star he was. Some of his earlier stuff, that really struck a chord with me. So I started trying to um, learn his singing style and singing. I practiced probably more singing than guitar this last year, doing the last couple of years doing the Sinatra thing. So that's so hands down, Christmas music, Frank Sinatra's in charge.
Well, good stuff. I hope you have a great holiday season. And how many years is the anniversary for you and your wife this year?
19.
Congratulations to you. Are you already planning 20th anniversary for next year?
Um, I'm planning on I got to find the best gifts I've ever given her for the 20th. So I gotta think hard on that one.
Well, Mark, it's always great to speak to you. I can't wait to see you on the road. I'll see you at the DC show with Seven Dust and
Awesome.
Daughtry. But you've always been a great guy through the years, and I appreciate it. And safe travel, stay healthy, and my best to the fam.
Awesome. Thanks, you too.